with the Athens Roundtable, the Future Society, and thanks to all of you, and also to OECD, of course, for hosting us and being a partner for the France's AI Summit, AI Action Summit collaboration, and for all our and your collective efforts, which have created this platform really to foster this meaningful dialogue. And to our speakers and panelists and participants, thank you so much for sharing all these invaluable insights and your expertise. And of course, I will not be able to summarize if we look just at the last session, the 5 themes with the 15 also top priorities and recommendations. But I liked how Anne Bouvreau stressed the point on sustainability, which I think we hadn't sufficiently covered yet in terms of accountability. And I would politely disagree with Professor Russell, for whom I have highest respect for his work. But I really think that the impact is dramatic and will be even more dramatic. And just to say that we will be, because you were speaking about facts, unveil a publication in 1 or 2 months, a report where we measure with UCL energy consumptions and also look more closely at this energy and environmental dimensions, because water is another part. But the energy dimensions, and then also share practical strategies on how to enhance AI sustainability. With a focus on optimizing really efficiency and promoting also some smaller task-specific models for greener digital future. So with this climate impact, we're speaking really about an additional accountability responsibility dimension, which I think all stakeholders face and which should be increasingly important. Now, one answer to the question on how we can ensure AI actors are accountable for creating safe and ethical systems in the respect of the rule of law and fundamental rights, and which are sustainable in addition, are of course through global standards and coordination. And I will not more than mention UNESCO's AI ethics recommendations and some of the notes that is ethics always fussy. I think we did provide clear links, and it is based on also human rights-based approach, which are legally binding documents. So you can link ethics also to legally binding. But most importantly, participants highlighted and stressed the importance of building better benchmarks and enforcing global standards for AI risk management, and building an interoperable ecosystem for AI evaluations and ensuring transparency and accessible information flows. And just to say, one really, as this is the Athens Roundtable, part of the democracy dimension and disinformation and AI and elections, which was also discussed. UNESCO has also created a MOOC there, which in the first month, 8,500 people took on AI and the impact on elections. And to those who want to dive into that are really welcome to do that too. Now, addressing gaps in AI governance, I think what was interesting was really the call for clearer rules and consequences for those who are failing to manage AI risks effectively. And some pointed to the EU AI Act. And of course, transparency in this dimension was really highlighted too. Now, what could be our incentive for accountability is an important question. We could dive into more deeply and what the different forms of incentives or forcing accountability. But I think one thing we can agree upon was really in these discussions and recommendations, the collaborative and the multi-stakeholder approach, which is necessary for effective AI governance. And I really appreciate the Athens Roundtable for bringing all these different stakeholders here together and this different perspective and the interactions. So let us continue to work together and build on an accountable and inclusive AI ecosystem. And in this spirit, we at UNESCO look forward to working with all of you towards the AI Action Summit and then towards UNESCO's Global Conference on AI and Digital Transformation of the Public Sector. We have highlighted the judiciary work there. but also UNESCO's Global Forum on the Ethics of AI in June, to then finally see you all again at the hopefully Athens Roundtable. And I know I participated also in the little survey on where it could take place. So I see you already spotted different sites. So thank you again, and we look forward to our continued collaboration.
Thank you, Cédric. And I'm very happy to report that our online poll score has gone slightly down. So we're now at 75%. It was at 77% till just a bit. So something that was recently said really boosted up confidence. So it's a small win, but a win is a win. And I think it's worth celebrating, perhaps this evening over our reception. With that, Karine, really, thank you so much. I think if it wasn't for you and your team, today wouldn't have been possible. So yeah. Again, thank you. And with that, perhaps you can provide us with some closing remarks as well.
Thanks, Niki. I think I'd like to, emphasize the team. So Sarah Behube and Antonia over there that did the grunt of the work. But I wanted to thank But I wanted to thank you and for a big thank you and congratulations to the Future Society for bringing together such an impressive number of relevant AI stakeholders for the sixth time in a row. I think this is one of the best events that I've participated in throughout the years. And today's contributions, I think, are an important step towards in laying the path forward towards the French AI Action Summit in February and beyond. And everybody involved in the organization of this event, helped inform what that should look like. So taking a few moments to reflect on today's topics and some of the things we heard. First, on accountability across global AI actors to safeguard the rule of law. The calls for accountability are getting louder. They've been loud for a while. They're getting louder and louder. Public polls around the world show most citizens are concerned about the impacts of AI and particularly the impacts on their jobs and the job market more generally. And they do expect governments to take action. So I think it's important to keep this in mind in our governance discussions where this is not necessarily the key focus. And when we talk about accountability and safeguarding the rule of law in the context of AI, we do mean the protection of a variety of individual legal rights around the world, such as the right to privacy, the right to information, the right to non-discrimination, to just name a few. And it's the duty of global AI actors, both public and private, to work towards AI systems that are trustworthy and operate in a way that respects human rights and minimizes risks of, existential risks for sure, but minimize risks of any AI-caused harms, regardless of their magnitude. Second, on mapping the landscape and impact of AI governance and accountability, we talked a lot today about the landscape of AI legislations, but also other governance efforts to better understand risks stemming from advanced AI systems, for example, through the creation of the AI Safety Institutes and the network of AI Safety Institutes last month. And while these efforts to build evidence-based AI frameworks are of course critical, it's also really important they be accompanied by the practical tools that we're working on, especially because of the global nature of businesses that are involved in the AI system lifecycle. And here this is a kind of a this is an ad piece, but it's just to recall my colleague Audrey Planck this morning mentioning the OECD practical guidance for companies to implement the OECD Responsible Business Conduct Guidelines in the context of AI development and use this morning. And we hope this brings together existing frameworks. It's mapped to all the existing frameworks. It includes beyond the existing frameworks, the AI system lifecycle. It includes upstream providers like compute investors and downstream users, as well as it also benefits from an existing redress mechanism. So it doesn't need to be invented from scratch. Sometimes these things take a long time in the international environment. So we'll quickly just go third on building stronger accountability across AI actors globally. I think we can't forget the very AI actors here in this room, all the global actors that are here. I won't name them, but we are all responsible for moving the AI governance discussion forward in a productive way. There are other actors that are not in the room that we need to engage more. One point that stood out was we have a lack of interoperability in some areas between international and national AI governance that we need to work on. It's really, really easy to build in interoperability at the outset. It's very hard to change once it's baked in. And as international stakeholders, we should try to build those synergies upstream, because it takes years to then try to bake them in afterwards, and sometimes it's not possible. And then I think just in conclusion, that our international collaboration is multi-stakeholder international collaboration is our strongest answer to the challenges ahead. And I also and with that, I know that I saw a sign saying it's my time's up, so I'll pass it back to Niki, and hopefully we can continue discussions around some food and wine in a few minutes.
Yes, we will. And actually, before I hand the microphone to the co-founder of the Future Society and now the chair of our board, Miailhe, I also want to say a few things. I'll admit that when I was coming to Paris, I was feeling really exhausted. For many of you, it wasn't easy to get you guys here. And there were points where I was also feeling discouraged. Definitely the transatlantic flight did not help, but the main reason is that I have a 10-month-old at home, and this is the first time I'm leaving her. So I don't know, it got me asking a lot of really deep questions, like, why are we even here? Is this worth it? Does it matter at all? And the truth is there's a lot going on in the world, even outside AI. There's way too many people like living in war and violence. There's a lot of children that don't even have their basic needs met. And well, I'm known for being candid. So I'll say it how I see it. The developments here in France and also the developments back home in the US and literally all around the world are not really making me feel better. Actually, especially for the world of AI governance, they're making me more and more pessimistic. It seems, I think a lot of you already mentioned this, that geopolitical races will only accelerate over the next couple of years. AI labs look like they will be further incentivized to prioritize profits over people and to create increasingly powerful AI systems. But there is a but, that's the good part. Despite it all, I think after listening to the roundtable conversations throughout the day and having a bunch of side conversations leading up to the event, but also in the morning and during the lunch, I can say I'm hopeful. In many ways, I think I'm reminded why I'm here. And I think it's because I see and I feel when I talk to people that people here genuinely want to do good. And by good, we were talking about it with the team, like, what does that even mean? I think we mean we want to create a world where our children, one, survive. That's, to be blunt, like a basic necessity, but also to a world where our children have their basic rights upheld and the basic rights protected. So we talked today about a lot of challenges. We've talked also about some solutions. It seems like we have some basic understanding of where we want to go. There was a lot of talk around scientific consensus on AI risks. We need mutual recognition of model training and evaluations. We need also rules and laws and actual legislation to reinforce these best practices. We need global coordination. Obviously, we need an inclusive conversation, that I won't use the word global south, because I do agree with the earlier point made that we shouldn't have a dichotomy between the south and the north, but that global dialogue should be inclusive of everyone. And we need accountability mechanisms to make sure that we're on track, because that's the only way we'll build the world that we want. So working together, I would say, is essential to get this done. I know it's going to be hard work. I know it's not going to be easy. It's going to require a lot of tough conversations, a lot of negotiations, a lot of research, a lot of emails, further editions of the Athens Roundtable. Will take on the challenge. And if you ask any of my colleagues, they'll tell you that I really like a good Gantt chart. So if you want me to create a Gantt chart for the whole global AI governance ecosystem, I can do that happily. But yeah, jokes aside, to my earlier question of, is it worth it? I think, Nicolas, actually, you reminded me of this the other day, that global AI governance is not an end state on its own. It's a series of ongoing, continuous efforts by thousands of people, including us in this room, including our online audience, including others who could not join us today. And I think sometimes we'll have bad days and sometimes we'll have good days. And yeah, in my opinion, I think today was a good day for AI governance. As I said before, I think it's going to require a lot of work for us to get things done, but we do owe it to ourselves to try, and I think to future generations as well. We should hold each other accountable to that commitment. So with that, I'll hand the microphone to Miailhe, the co-founder of TFS.
Well, friends, this is the end of the 6th edition of the Athens Roundtable. I want to start by thanking, obviously, the OECD, Karine, Audrey, and Jerry for hosting us today on the 6th edition, and also the Paris Action Summit for handing over the support to make this relevant for the summit. Obviously, I want to thank you all for having stayed for so long. I don't know about you, but I'm brain fried, and it's a good sign for the day we've spent all together. I obviously want to congratulate the entire team at the Future Society on the organization, flawless and really interactive, to really raise the temperature on the issues that matter the most and do that in a way which is as inclusive as possible. So I want to ask you, the ladies and gentlemen of the Future Society, please stand up and be recognized for your hard work today and in the weeks before. Thank you very much. Thank you. Today I have a sense of pride as almost a year after I handed over my executive leadership to my successor, Nicolas, sitting over there, seeing that the work has been carried in such an excellent way. It's always great to see that your successor is doing a better job than you're doing. Trust me, this is what you all want. This is what we all want. We want this from our kids at some point. So we want this for people we hand over something to. And I'm really amazed and proud of you all. So well done. As you know, I started this year another journey, which is to try and build a European champion of evaluation of frontier AI models from a safety perspective. This is not easy, as we've discussed today. It's hard to build metrology and not metrology washing. It's going to be super hard. I think that we should celebrate a little bit the past achievements. When I started something like 15 years ago on this journey on AI governance, trust me, people thought we were nuts all across. And I must say that in the span of 10 years, the system has reacted really well. And the global governance regime complex that we were dreaming of at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government 10 years ago with Joe and I, as we were designing the Future Society, is in sight. And I use this concept as a concept of reference for us all, this global regime complex, as a way to invite us to be both tolerant and ambitious. If the global governance of AI becomes too clean and too perfect, please run away. It will have become dangerous to the point of a totalitarian regime or aspect. It has to be respectful of pluralism, and therefore, it has to be imperfect and moving. And on that front, amazing what we've seen over the past 10 years. A lot has been recapped today. A lot has been done at the OECD. A lot is being done at the UN, at UNESCO. This international network of cooperation between AI Safety Institute has been launched. Council of Europe passing a first legally binding instrument, a framework convention, over 60 countries publishing even more now, national AI strategies, a lot of work on measurement and benchmarks. And I think it's quite amazing, like in a span of 10 years. A lot of people say that governments are slow moving. I should say here that I've seen a lot happening. And yet, when we look ahead, I think that we must also acknowledge that the real work lies in front of us because of the velocity and the magnitude of what lies upon us. And for me, the day of the world, I will steal from Axel. It's constructive vigilance. We need to be constructively vigilant over the pace and the sincerity at which we build these things. I work on eval. I do not want to work on evil's washing, for example. And that is also something that the core responsibility I send to myself in terms of the kind of work that I do and what I demand from my team and myself. And I see, in a way, reflecting over the conversations of today, three angles or three priorities. The first one, obviously, and we've discussed it, we need to advance global accountability mechanisms. We need strong and interoperable metrics, evaluations, and benchmarks. We also need, and I speak as an evaluator, to build the conditions for third-party evaluations to be really independent. This conflict of interest is going to be difficult to build when the value chain is so concentrated in such a few hands. It's going to be a challenge. We need to obviously make sure that there are backstop regulatory mechanisms. Voluntary commitments won't do alone. Standards won't do alone without a regulatory backstop. Second, and we're here for that, we need an international coordination at the center. The multilaterals that we're bringing today into that room need to work together even harder to create these enforceable global norms, these cocktails of soft and hard regulatory mechanisms. And we need those cross-sector partnerships that are truly multi-stakeholder. And third, last but not the least, we need to ensure that our efforts are indeed equitable and really inclusive, as you mentioned before. The global majority, and I take Henri's point, okay, let's remove the global south, but for sure, there's a global majority out there, and the global majority must have a seat at the table, not as an afterthought, but that as a structural design principle, as a priority. And we need to ensure that we have pathways to address algorithmic disparities, to create AI systems that respect and serve diverse, plural cultural contexts, and that's not going to be easy. And so in closing, my call to action to myself and to all of you is to ask you to commit to coordinated action. We know that no single nation or institution can ensure that responsible AI happens, that AI is safe and trustworthy. And I want to remind you in closing that we have to carry that sense of ambition, but also that profound sense of responsibility. We can, as I think Nicolas said in opening this morning, transform today's discussion into tomorrow's victory, but if we respond to that call in a way that honors that profound responsibility. When we gathered in 2022 in December at the European Parliament, back then ChatGPT had just been released. And when people like us were talking about the importance of general purpose systems, we were not necessarily heard every day. We've seen that now it's become a clear priority, and the velocity and the magnitude are not abating. You will hear soon from where the next edition, the 7th edition of the Athens Roundtable on AI and the rule of law will be held. Stay tuned and see you next year for one more edition. Thank you so very much.